As long
and
as it's
TV.
not Jeffrey Tubin, we're live. So we're just talking about being authentic and going live. All right, everyone's jumping on. I'm Adam Parkamenko, and today is July 1st. If you didn't know that, which is pretty exciting, we live to see another month.
Woo.
Um, and we have Danielle Moodie here, who is this is not scripted. None of this is. Danielle Moodie, who, to be honest, is one of my favorite political voices out there. She calls everything the way it is. I got to meet her through Mary Trump and Mary Trump's Nerd Avengers. And a lot of times I'm just hoping I don't get called on when we're on together because I love hearing your take on everything. And then I'm looking at the countdown and I'm like, oh no, it's like, we got 30 minutes left, but like, I really want to hear what she's going to say on this clip. So, I'll shoot Mary a message and be like, I really, want to hear what Danielle's got on this. But we've got folks from YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. And most importantly, but not to take away from everybody else, Substack live. And this is a new beta key that we're trying out. That's why it looks a little different than just a cell phone. So thank you to everybody who is here on Substack. I'm going to post this again later to make sure that you can find her channel. I hope whether you're a paid subscriber, non-paid subscriber, you'll consider doing the same for her. She's awesome. So with that, what I'd like to do is welcome Danielle. And I actually had this up here. I wanted to make sure that I got to name your show. So she's got the Danielle Moodie Show. She's co-host of As the World Churns, and she's also co-host of Democracy-ish, and you have one other, right?
No, those are well,
I got the three. Oh, you know what? Substack.
Substack.
That was what I was saying. Substack, and she has her own media company. But with that, Danielle, I want to learn more about you, and I want others to hear more about you. So anything and everything you can tell us, but like, who is the, not the @ handle, real Danielle Moodie, but who is this wonderful voice that our party has?
Oh, you're fantastic. One, thank you so much for having me. I think that we have been on Nerd Avengers for so long, so to actually just do a one-on-one is super fun. So who is Danielle Moodie? Danielle Moodie is well, I am a recovering lobbyist. People should know that, like, I got my political chops on Capitol Hill, working for Representative Yvette Clarke. You've gone away. Working for
I meant to hit mute because the dogs are barking at God knows what. So sorry to interrupt.
No worries. Working for Congresswoman Yvette Clarke. I'm a former educator, taught first and second grade. I have been a senior advisor at the Center for American Progress, where I launched an initiative called the FIRE Initiative that looked at the intersection of LGBTQ equality and racial justice. I have worked for the city of New York as a lobbyist for the Department of Education. And then I decided I didn't want to work full-time in government or on the Hill, that I wanted to find another medium to kind of shift hearts and minds. And that's how I got into media probably about 15 years ago as a national spokesperson for marriage equality, which we just celebrated the 10-year anniversary of the SCOTUS decision. I was one of the national spokespeople for that. And I then have been on TV talking shit and been, a podcaster for a very long time at this point. And now I'm just, here at the rise of fascism, which just seems like, the place I should be.
Yeah, well, there's no better place to be at this current time, I suppose. It'll be nice when we get to the other side. I mean, I was thinking about it today with everything going in the Senate, and they may have won a little battle today, right? But this is a war, and obviously there's a lot more going on. But thank you for sharing that part. There's been a lot of stuff going on, and I don't even like to use the term hot takes when it comes to you, because really it's just unvarnished truth. And my old friend Mignon Moore always used to remind me. I love Mignon, and I've known her and worked with her for over 20 years. And she always told me if I was concerned about speaking up about something, whether it was with a client or a meeting or whatever, she said, truth don't care who tell it. And And I think that's one of the great things about you. You're not saying something in hopes that it's going to get a bunch of clicks, but you do tell the truth. So I wanted to kick this off. I think we've got about 7 clips and 1 screenshot. So the first is Donald Trump this morning on Elon Musk. Kyle, if you're able to play that one for us.
The rest. We got a lot of hostages back, but we're going to talk about that. I don't know. I think we'll have to take a look. We might have to put Doge on Elon. You know what Doge is? Doge is the monster that might have to go back and eat Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible? He gets a lot of subsidies, Peter. But Elon's very upset that the EV mandate is going to be terminated. And you know what? When you look at it, not everybody wants an electric car. I don't want an electric car. I want to have maybe gasoline, maybe electric, maybe a hybrid, maybe someday a hydrogen. If you have a hydrogen car, it has one problem. It blows up, So I'm going to give that one to Peter. I'm going to let Peter test it out.
So I saw this and first,
Wow.
It's like, I guess it's nice that like the one thing that they seem to do correctly at the White House is they still take the questions with the helicopter noise in the background, which, is historical and you can never really hear what they're saying. But obviously this is about whether or not, Donald Trump might deport Elon Musk. And the first 2 things that came to mind were, one, would Stephen Miller make money off of that? And 2, is that red Tesla still parked out there? But would love your thoughts on Trump and Musk.
Wow. I mean, this is a breakup everyone with eyes saw coming. So, because Donald Trump is not loyal to anyone and Elon Musk is deficient emotionally, spiritually and morally. But that's pretty bold of a statement to say that you are going to potentially look into deporting the man that is responsible for your presidency. Because let's be clear, if Elon Musk had not funneled $290 to $300 million into Donald Trump's campaign and do some other questionable things as it pertains to potentially Starlink, as it pertains to potential voting booths and the like, I don't think that Donald Trump would be president. And Doge, if I'm correct in all of the analysis that we have seen come out, has collected a unbelievable amount of data on the American people. I would also include Donald Trump in that data collection as well. If I'm Elon Musk, I'm making sure that, I have some security in terms of what it is I know about the operations of the Trump administration and all of the people in there that have been very vocal about yapping about him and against him. So I think that is a bold move to make with a man that's worth $400 billion that has access to satellite dishes and the like, and knows the ins and outs of your campaign. I mean, he is a drug addict and he's crazy, but he has a lot of information on Donald Trump. So that was bold.
That's so true. And they have information on everyone. I think it was just a couple days ago, Donald Trump was, I think he was posting about it, but basically saying he'd have to take a look at AOC's test scores. I mean, the fact that this is a guy that thinks he should be and let alone have access to AOC's test scores. Someone else yesterday said to me when I was on Mary Trump's show, do you think that this is like real or all an act? And I think the one thing, there's so much stuff happening, people forget. It wasn't long ago that Elon Musk literally said, Donald Trump is in the Epstein files, which have still not been released. So I don't think there's anything fake about this, but the 2 of them going at it, and it is by far the best breakup I've ever watched publicly.
And the other thing Elon said in their initial big blow up was a shot to Republicans when he said Donald Trump has 3.5 more years, supposedly, right, in his administration. He goes, I'll be around for at least 20 or 30 more years. So you all should think about that. That was also, so who's your real daddy? The one that actually provides you with an allowance that allows you to have some little fiefdom of power, or the one who berates you in public and doesn't actually provide you with anything. Oh, you're on mute.
Thought I unmuted. Am I there? The other thing I thought was really interesting too is in terms of this whole breakup. For years and years and years, Republicans have been terrified to go against Donald Trump on anything, and we'll get to the Senate bill. But the fact that Elon, and once again, is talking about putting as much money as he needs into the primary opponents, Republicans have been scared that if they don't follow Donald Trump, he's going to endorse someone else and pick a new candidate. Well, now the fact that you've got people like Tom Massey breaking off shows just how, maybe Elon has provided a little bit of cover for them to actually go against Trump.
I think that that's right. Look, it doesn't take much, I think, to turn your back on Donald Trump if you're turning towards somebody that has a lot, that has the money for your protection, right? Because that's what this is about. And Elon Musk has more money than God, and he has more access and more power. And again, even though he is also emotionally unstable and not well, he has his tentacles in so many different things, not just in this country, but around the world, that if you're choosing which devil you want to get in bed with, you're going to choose the one that actually could bring you more money and not just pain. And I think that honestly, that's the difference between Donald Trump and Elon Musk right now, if I'm a heartless, soulless Republican.
Yeah, that's so true. And if Republicans actually did come together, I mean, like we all know that when they put their message out every single day, they're on the same page and they're saying the same thing. If they really wanted to protect this country and save this country, technically the cabinet and Republicans could all come together and remove Donald Trump. The idea of JD Vance as president is pretty terrifying, though. So with that, we're going to move to the next clip, which is, from a question that Ducey asked Donald Trump today. We'll see how loud the helicopter is here.
And with the alligator Alcatraz, it's the idea that if some illegal immigrant escapes, they just get eaten by an alligator or a snake or something?
I guess that's the concept. This is not a nice business. I guess that's the concept. If snakes are fast, but alligators are, but we're going to teach them how to run away from an alligator, okay? If they escape prison, how to run away. Don't run in a straight line. Run like this. And you know what? Your chances go up about 1%. Okay? Not a good thing.
Okay, so this, by the way, I guess we have thunder here. So Simba is here and barking. That was about alligator Alcatraz. What are your thoughts on this?
What are my thoughts on this? That the depravity of this administration knows no bounds. That you're talking about immigrants, and he referred to that place, which is really a concentration camp, as a prison. What is their crime? Like, again, because this administration doesn't believe in due process. What are they being charged with? What are they being held for? Right? This is a private business. Right. This is the prison industrial complex. When Donald Trump became president of the United States in January, do you know what? Those were the stocks that went up. Right. Those are the places, private prison industrial complex.
And now we have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has never bought a stock in her life.
All of a sudden, right? She's a Wall Street executive. So you watch.
Hey, Danielle, just in case people, I saw in the comments, some people couldn't hear because of the helicopter. I'm just going to say, this is what the question was. Ducey said, with alligator Alcatraz, is the idea that if some illegal immigrants escape, they just get eaten by an alligator? And Trump responded, I guess that's the concept. Snakes are fast, but alligators, we're going to teach them how to run away from an alligator. Don't run in a straight line, run, quote, waving hand like this. So that was what was said in the clip for those that couldn't hear it.
But it's just, again, my question is, what's the crime? What crime have these people committed? When Donald Trump was running for president, he said, we're getting rid of the criminals, we're getting rid of the thugs, we're getting rid of the gangsters. Okay, well, how would you know what the background of any of these people are without due process? The fact that you're arresting people at their places of work, the fact that you're kidnapping students off of the street, it just tells us that you are throwing people in a concentration camp because they are brown and because English may not be their first language, or because they are Black and again, English may not be their first language. So the criminality of this administration, they are blatantly saying, is happening because you're Black or brown. That's the only that's it. And we're sitting around and doing interviews. Like I watched DeSatan. I watched him in Florida. You know, look at with the showers we have over there. Look at the tents. The tents, it's Florida. It's about to be hurricane season. We just experienced a heat dome here in New York with temperatures that were above 100 degrees. And you're pointing out showers in tents?
Yeah.
Right? Like and that's supposed
it's
to
a
be
perk.
acceptable.
I mean, all this stuff too. I mean, whether there's a shower or not, or one. I mean, it's like what Trump said the other day with Iran, basically, denying our intelligence community 3 days before with these trucks, saying, "Oh no, these aren't trucks taking enriched uranium. These are trucks just delivering, the weekly food supply." It's all a lie.
Yeah, it's all a lie.
I think John Favreau said basically kind of what you said too, and he said this is just clearly an ICE internment camp, and I mean I think that sort of summarizes it pretty well.
I mean, again, Democrats were asked recently, would you eliminate ICE, right? Can you finally say, now we see these masked thugs without badges, with ghost license plates, with no identification at all. You can go right now to Etsy or Amazon, get a vest that says ICE, get a hat, get a camouflage outfit, and start kidnapping people. And there's no difference. There's no differentiator between that person and who is supposed to be federal law enforcement. So now when Democrats are asked, well, with what you're seeing with your own eyes, do you think now it's time to get rid of ICE, to defund ICE, to close down ICE? And they say no. So I'm like, so now you're building internment camps and you're showing them on the evening news as if this is something that Americans should be celebrating, that their tax dollars are going to, now that they don't have SNAP or Medicaid or anything that is actually about investing in society, except building more prisons. It's just like, man, we are so far down this like hellhole. And every time I think that we've reached the bottom, Adam, we continue to frack our way even further to the core.
No, you're so right. And when you say you can just go and get that stuff, sorry, Simba is really barking. When you say you can just go and get that stuff, there's actually we've seen the video reports of it's happening. There was a rock, and this is how sad of a point we've gotten to in this country. There was an individual who was robbed at gunpoint by somebody pretending to be ICE. When they were on the ground, they were told they weren't ICE and they were just being robbed. And we are at a point where people are relieved to hear that they are being robbed and not deported. That's that's insane. That's where we've gotten to.
And somebody said in the comments, they said, I refuse to call it, Janice said, I refuse to call it alligator Alcatraz. This is alligator Auschwitz. And I'm like, 100%. Like the people need to understand words matter. The words that we use and the associations that we make and the stories that we tell matter. They're what sits in people's consciousness. And so, no, this isn't a prison for criminals, because again, what is the crime? If being Black, if being brown is the crime, then just let us all come out and understand that to be the case. Let us stop pretending that having a tattoo on brown skin makes you a gang member. Right? Like, let us stop saying that, oh, these people are suckling off of Americans when you're arresting them at their jobs. Right? Like, let's stop believing the lies. And so, no, Alcatraz is where you actually would hold criminals. Right? Auschwitz is where you held innocent Jewish people whose only crime was being Jewish. So that's what's being advertised on the evening news. And that's what Ron DeSantis is so happy to show off. And that's what Donald Trump just said is now going to be a larger system that he would like to create. Yeah, we had a larger system. Hitler had a larger system, right? And it cost 6 million people plus their lives.
And that response is why I always love being on with Danielle Moodie. This next clip, you know what? Folks may kill me, but I don't even I think this guy's a U.S. senator. I in my head, the Senate is like the days where you used to remember everybody. You know, you'd have like Orrin Hatch and Fred Thompson and just John McCain, like folks that were like you didn't always agree with, but like you knew who they were and you knew why they were there. Now every day, it's somebody new. So this is a Kyle. It's the Harris clip. A quick little clip, and then just before we play it, Danielle, what I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to just pull myself off the screen, so when the clip's done, I'm going to let you respond to it while I get Simba and Moose to their
You're leaving
favorite
me in
spot.
charge? Oh no.
I'm leaving
Okay.
I'm leaving you in charge. I'll be back in 60 seconds and the clip's 30 seconds.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Why that's not going to happen. You're not even going to start looking at this until next Wednesday. And I'm just wondering, is this going to make it across the finish line?
I do believe by next Wednesday we can come to an agreement. The bottom line is we can't do it in the next few days, but I do believe by next week we can come to an agreement. And again, they're going to be last-minute changes, just the way they were in the Senate. That's the way the system works. That's the way the legislative process works, and the nation and the country will be better for it.
All right, we'll keep watching.
The nation and the country will be better for a bill that adds $3 trillion worth of debt to our deficit, that guts Medicaid by $930 billion, that guts SNAP by hundreds of billions of dollars. That is literally a bill that is literally taking food out of the mouths of hungry children in order to feed the insatiable hunger of the wealthy. Like, do we understand how obscene this is? That man, that senator could get on television and say that the American people are going to be better for something, a piece of legislation that is the worst modern piece of legislation that we have ever seen in this country. And, it was just most recently, former New York City mayoral candidate from a few years ago, and you all have seen her and probably follow her if you're still on that hellhole of a site, Twitter, but on Blue Sky, Maya Wiley posted and said, I just want to remind people that FDR raised taxes substantially on the wealthy so that what? So that we could create Medicaid, we could create Social Security, we could create these different programs. And now in this century, right, in the 21st century, Donald Trump is passing legislation that is going to take away rights that we gained in the 20th century. The rollback, to me, Adam, the rollback that this regime is putting America through, people talk about like the Industrial Revolution and all of the greatness. We have to understand the amount of pollution, the amount of death. Like, when you know better, you're supposed to do better. But because this regime does not believe in education, doesn't believe in science, doesn't believe in being of support or aid, doesn't believe in the collective, like, we're going to go back to the 19th century. The sickness, the unnecessary death, the unnecessary chaos and trauma that's being caused by this legislation. For that senator to say that the American people are going to be better off, I don't know how these people sleep at night. I really don't.
And I gotta say, I love that you mentioned Maya Wiley, because I was on day one out there. I wish I was out there, getting out the vote, but I immediately endorsed her. I think the world of her, and we actually will be talking about Eric Adams in a moment, but we'd be in a very different position right now. Yep. If she was the mayor. She is just an incredible and courageous voice.
Yeah. And it was just like that reminder, again, is just so important for people to understand what government was supposed to do, what government has always been about, right? With deep flaws. But the fact is that the government was supposed to help the least of us, right? And help those that wanted to achieve their version of the American dream, buy a home, have a quality education, advance in this society. Like, that's what government was supposed to do and aid. And Donald Trump just said to poor children, I wish I remember the name of the Republican representative that said, they don't need free lunches. They need to get jobs. When I was 12, I was out picking berries. An actual Republican representative said that. The majority of young kids that receive free and reduced lunch are under the age of 10. So you telling me that 10-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 8-year-olds should be learning how to operate a fryer?
I mean, that is outrageous. And by the way, I'm pulling that up because on this show, we call everybody out. Rep Rich McCormick.
Yes.
Should kids have to work for their school lunches? One GOP rep thinks so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, we've got just crazy lightning here. Kyle, can we pull up the AOC tweet as our next segue here? All right, here we go. So this was just in the last hour. JD Vance was the deciding vote to cut Medicaid across the country, an absolute and utter betrayal of working families. Now, something that I have heard from is, how loud is Simba, just out of curiosity?
I mean, the poor baby. It's lightning.
Yeah.
I got very little sleep last night because of my step fur baby who saw lightning and decided to try and sleep on top of my head. So
he'll probably be coming. He'll probably be coming back in there in the next video. I thought he'd be having more fun with Moose out there. But kind of back to the AOC thing, you know, she makes such a good point. But what I wanted to say was, I have a source on the Hill, and I don't usually say I have a source, but I have someone that that I trust. And one thing that's been happening over the last couple of months is JD Vance really wants to start a super PAC, and Donald has made sure that does not happen. So not only has JD Vance put himself on the line on this with whatever he plans or wants to do in the future, but the fact that he's trying to do that shows, you know, obviously what he wants to do in the future and how much control, you know, Donald Trump continues to have over him.
I cannot believe that Donald Trump said, no, you can't start a super PAC. Like,
while simultaneously having his kids talking about potentially running for president.
And while simultaneously now shelling out, what is it? The perfumes that he's doing now? Like,
yeah.
I mean, what?
What's interesting about the perfume, people called it QVC. A couple people called it, what was that guy, Billy, whatever, is, first of all, it's $250 a bottle. But secondly, a lot of folks are saying, oh, that's from December of last year. Well, it was Ron Filipkowski who kind of re-upped it yesterday, posted it because it is an ad that's running on YouTube. So it may have been running last year, but it is definitely running, as the current grift is. And some of the comments on that, maybe we'll play that at the end before we're done. But one of my favorite ones was, okay, so got it. This is the presidency is a side gig. And then my favorite one was, at least we'll smell them coming.
Oh, that's good. Because I don't even know what you could advertise that shit would smell like that would make me say, oh yeah, Donald Trump looks like a man that smells good. Said no one ever.
Yeah, and I know Michael Cohen joined on Substack, and I think is still watching. I'm hoping whenever he goes live, I think I saw he was going live at 2:00 today, that he talks a little bit more about that, because well, I don't want to give anything away, Michael, you know, but I know you're very familiar with some of the products in the future that Donald Trump has been placed, and probably have a lot to say on that topic. Next up, the New York City mayor's race. This is a clip that number 5, Kyle, that Donald Trump said today, and it is pretty eye-opening. So we'll take a look at that.
Thank you.
Mr. President, your beloved New York City. Your beloved New York City may well be led by a communist soon, Zoran Mandami, who in his nomination speech said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zoran Mandami.
Well, then we'll have to arrest him. Look, we don't need a communist in this country, but if we have one, I'm going to be watching over him very carefully on behalf of the nation. We send him money. We send him all the things that he needs to run a government. And by the way, they get about 3 times what you get, Ron. If you look at the per capita, Florida gets 1/3 of what New York gets in terms of the numbers. Why don't you give us those numbers?
Yeah, well,
Because that's
no.
what we should send him.
Yeah, well, like sometimes people say Florida gets more because they count Social Security recipients, but that's not money to the state. Those are seniors that live here. If they moved to North Carolina, you could count it there. So it has no interaction with the state government. They get more in the city and state governments than we get.
Right, substantially. We're going to be watching that very carefully, and a lot of people are saying he's here illegally. He's, we're going to look at everything, and ideally, he's going to turn out to be much less than a communist. But right now, he's a communist. That's not a socialist. I've always said we will not have socialism in this country. In the speeches, I said, well, what? They skipped socialism, and you got a lot of them like that.
I would
Now,
love if he would define anything that he just said. Like, what is the actual
exactly.
definition?
When I saw this pop up, and I wish I could give credit to who this was, but one of the first comments I saw was unclear to me from this clip if Trump knows what a mayor, state, or population are, or if he knows when the election is.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and again, if you listen to the reporter, I don't know what reporter this was, because no one who actually is a journalist would have ever formulated the question the way that he did by restating a lie about Zoran Mandani. So that's number one, and calling him a communist, because he's not. He's a democratic socialist, which believes in the power of the collective versus the individualist greed of a capitalist society, right? That only works for the top of the top 1%. And that's the lie that they feed you. That's the lie that the wealthy feed you to have this, what I call the lottery mentality prevail, which is that all of us are just one fucking scratch off or lottery ticket away from being the next Donald Trump, Bill Gates, or Elon Musk. We're not. Right? You start life on third base. Everybody else starts life behind the fucking dugout, which is probably filled with alligators, and are expected to like reach you where you are, knowing in the way that you've been given everything. And so the idea of socialism is about that the ones that make the most, why are they giving the least back? It doesn't make any sense. And the fact that we live in a society that has a country that has more billionaires, right, while there are people that are going hungry, should not be the identifier of a successful, healthy nation. It should be quite the opposite.
Yeah, and I think Jeff Bezos and his wedding proves your point very well.
Ugh.
What's interesting about what Donald Trump just said, paired with this next clip, I think is even more fascinating and sort of says everything we need to know. So let's take a look on this Eric Adams topic.
Long time since a Republican won the city, but you would think that a Republican would be able to win. Or you have a good independent running, Mayor Adams, who's a very good person. I helped him out a little bit. He had a problem, and he was unfairly hurt over this question. He made a statement to the effect that this is terrible. New York City can't have all these immigrants come in. And like he was indicted the following day. And I said, that was a phony indictment. And it was a phony indictment. That was a Biden indictment. I said, don't feel bad. I got indicted 5 times every time you opened your mouth. That was a bad group. That was a very dangerous group, I will tell you. These were not nice people. That was the only thing they could do. They had no policy. They had no skill. They had no anything. But they were very good at that. They were vicious, vicious, horrible people.
It is just a crazy storm out here. So I'm muting.
I mean, look, listening to Donald Trump, which I try to do very infrequently, is nauseating because everything that comes out of his mouth is a lie. Why was Eric Adams indicted? Because he's a criminal, because he was taking bribes, as Donald Trump was, and that's why he was indicted. And the fact is, why was Donald Trump indicted multiple times? Because you're a criminal. And everything that comes out of this man's mouth is projection. What is there some singular achievement that Donald Trump can lift up that he has done over the last 6 months? Is there anything that he can, I mean, honestly, and I genuinely mean this, what would be the one achievement, Adam, that like either one of us could think off the dome right now that Donald Trump and this regime have done?
The only achievement would be the fact that he was a guy going into a November election who was facing prison time or time in the White House.
Yeah, That, I mean, it's just there's not one thing. There's not one executive order that he has signed off on. There is not one piece of policy that has come out of this administration that has done anything to make even the lives of his base any better. Who cares about the rest of America? Because he doesn't care about the rest of America. He only cares about the 77 million that voted for him. But even in those 77 million, what policies has this administration come up with? Nothing. Everything that they've been doing is about undoing what the Biden administration did, undoing what Obama did, and then just running roughshod over the country, breaking it up and selling it for parts. That's what they're doing. They're not offering anything. All they're doing is taking.
You're so right on that. I'm going to come back to that clip in a minute because there are two comments that that I wanted to read that I saw on Twitter today. But Cameron's home, so we're going to go to the next clip because Cameron's going to take care of Moose and Simba. So we'll jump to the next clip.
And his bad spending is what caused inflation. So now we have no inflation. Gasoline just hit $1.99 today in 5 states. $1.99, isn't that a nice sound? It was up to $4, and going up to $5, $6, and $7. In California, it was $7.70. But we just hit in five states $1.99, $1.98, and it's coming down to that level. So that'll be a big thing. And one of the reasons the prices and costs are going down when you go to the supermarket, because I said I was going to get costs down. We're getting the costs down. Food is coming down. When I came out, my first week, if you remember, I had a lunatic reporter screaming at me saying, eggs are going through the roof. What are you going to do about eggs? I said, I just got here. I didn't know anything about eggs. I had to call you. I said, look, I just got here. Tell me the problem. Well, they're doubled in price, and they're going to be 5 or 6 times higher. They were right, actually. I said, let me work on it. And now we have eggs down to the same numbers it was when I first came in. You know, we low.
Okay, Cameron saved the day. But anyhow, so I apologize for the background noise, but I love my dogs. This guy is so out of touch with America. What do you think?
I mean, it's just like, one, what do you want me to do about eggs? I just got here. Isn't that what you spent 2024 campaigning on? I'm confused. I thought you knew everything. I thought you said that when you got in, prices of everything were going to go down. You love the word groceries. So I'm confused about why you didn't understand what the price of eggs were at the time. And then you go ahead and what did they do? They fired everybody from the FDA. Right? They fired all the research into the strain of bird flu that we were dealing with to make sure that, I don't know, we could develop a vaccination in the event that people were going to continue to get sick. And it wasn't just going to be the birds that were going to die, but that people were actually going to die. But who needs science, Adam? Who needs science?
I mean, we're going to have to do a bunch of these because like that makes me think we also fired a bunch of people very familiar with our nuclear weapons program and then had to go and find them after that. Going back to the last clip just for 1 second, there were two comments I saw on Twitter. Fred Wellman, and this was about Eric Adams, said the key to secret deals is not to talk about the secret deal, but Trump has a head full of rotting hamburger, can't shut the fuck up. And Ron Filipkowski said blatantly illegal and unethical, and not what DOJ told the court, but whatever. We are a mafia country right now, like Russia, led by a mob boss and Republicans that are all terrified of being the next Cheney, Good, Massey, Tillis.
Yep.
So the dogs were barking. I just wanted to flag those two. But this grocery thing, I mean, the guy is just so out of touch. He acknowledges basically, right? He doesn't know anything about groceries and doesn't get groceries. And when he was out, where was it? Was it UAE? Was it Dubai? They pulled up a 18-wheeler McDonald's truck to have all of his food ready for him whenever he wanted it. I mean, that's the grocery guy that we're dealing with.
That's insane. And like, honestly, like, why can't his arteries do the job? I just don't understand. Right? Like, I don't get it. Who can ingest that much McDonald's?
I told everybody that Danielle Moodie always speaks truth to power. You know, Mary Trump, one thing I've heard her say on her show before is he's going to be around forever because literally all he eats is preservatives. He's literally preserved.
So evil really just doesn't ever go anywhere. So maybe that's the key. Maybe I should stop eating kale Do you know what I'm saying?
I mean,
So that I too can live forever.
Can you imagine what would happen if he ate kale? I mean, that might be it. I don't know.
Ugh.
Anyhow, so we have this inflation video that we're going to go to next.
It was when I first came in. You know, we lowered the cost of groceries. A simple word like that, groceries, it was like almost a strange word. I hadn't heard the word in so long, but what could be more beautiful than the word grocery? And we have the prices way down. We have the energy way down. Energy brought the groceries down, if you want to know the truth. And, you know, so we think we're going to get it lower, and we're going to fill up the it's called the Strategic National Reserves. I had it topped out, and this guy would use them every time before the election. He'd use them whenever they had an election. It was artificial. But believe it or not, as big as that are tens of hundreds of millions of barrels of oil, all filled up at low prices. But it was.
So 2 quick things, Danielle. From one channel alone right now, we have 1776. I don't know if that's like a scary thing. The second is I realized as I was getting the dogs to Cameron, I may have gone and you watched inflation. Well, I thought groceries played. So that was why I was talking about groceries.
It's fine. It's a beautiful word, Adam. And I think that people need to hear the term more often because apparently Donald Trump hasn't heard it in forever. When was the last time you heard groceries? Oh, I don't know. The last time I went to the fucking store, which was, you know, a couple of days ago. So
I mean, I sometimes go to the grocery store 3 or 4 times a day because 1, I don't want to do that whole like Amazon like monthly thing and support that. And 2, you know, when you have multiple kids and multiple dogs and lots of, you know, heartbeats that are relying on you, you're always out of something, especially with a 2-year-old.
But Donald Trump is a 78-year-old man that I guarantee you has never stepped in, doesn't know. He would probably have called it a food store if, in fact, somebody didn't whisper in his ear and say grocery store. And he's like, oh, my God, what a traditional word. That's
oddly,
how
the
out
only
of touch
place
he
I
is.
think he stepped foot in was McDonald's to serve in that photo op.
Yes,
where
where he
people
told
were
the
like,
work.
oh my God, thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
President. This is the most amazing. And then handed them a bag that looked like, you know, it had 0 grease on it and nothing in it.
Yes. And he told the workers there that he knew the menu better than they did. And that was supposed to be like a good thing.
I mean, you just can't make it up.
I wish we could.
Me too. Things would be a lot different. Okay, first of all, I know we'll start to wrap this up, but this is a lot of fun. Kyle, are there any before I pull up Substack, are there any comments or questions you want to put up directly on the screen? I know you've been flagging some stuff here. I think in the chat it allows us to highlight them. But Kyle, you've been flagging all sorts of other stuff here. I'm doing okay. Well, anyways, for those, Kyle's the best. I just sometimes, Kyle, by the way, if you want to come and say hi on camera, you should. I'm going to pull up the comments here. If you are, if you're watching and you have questions on Substack or YouTube, please, for Danielle, please feel free to throw them in here. The one thing, by the way, Danielle, that I learned as we're testing out this key that's in beta from Substack is I was worried if I pulled up the Substack app, would it kill our live? And it doesn't. So the nice thing is we can actually
look at us.
Yeah, so you can get to the questions and everything like that if you're ever on through a key and seat here. Just chime me in here.
I love it. Oh, look
I'm
at
amazed.
everybody in the chats.
Yeah. Okay, here
chat,
we go.
folks. That's fun.
There you go. I just typed love you all. So it's there. Okay. You guys can hear us too, but any questions?
I see Kyle put a question in the private chat that says, Sylvie, do you think the bill will pass the House? That's a question from Sylvie. Do we think the bill will pass the House? My response to that is yes. I do think that the bill is going to pass the House, and I think it's going to pass by the skin of its teeth. I don't see. I mean, I think what can Johnson lose? Is it 3 votes, the same as was in the?
What's that famous quote? What do you have to lose by injecting bleach? or taking
Yeah.
horse pills?
So
It's a good question. I mean, it's a razor thin, right? But the other thing is that as we've seen reports, maybe 6 months, 12 months, my time reference is gone post COVID. But there was one Republican who wasn't even showing up for votes because of Alzheimer's and other issues. I mean, these folks are so old that literally the makeup of Congress could change between now and when the vote takes. And we sadly saw that recently with Jerry Connolly,
Yep.
who passed away, and then the next day they passed a bill in the House by one vote.
Yep. Yep. So look, I have no faith in Republicans. I don't think that Johnson has a lot of votes to lose. There are some in the Republican camp that believe that the Medicaid cuts don't go far enough, and then some that believe they go too far. Here's the thing. I have a question for you, Adam, because this is a question that I asked Washahat the other day. The polls have come out, right? Quinnipiac said 59% of Americans oppose this bill, right? And we see the stories, we see the poll numbers, and normally the polls would be enough to scare Republicans into minimizing, not stopping the harm, but minimizing the amount of harm so that it seems as if the American people have gained something. They decided not to do that with the Senate. And I said to Waj, I believe, why are Republicans moving headfirst this way? Because I don't think that we're going to have midterms. And I believe that they know that. So they are not actually concerned about what their constituents think. That's why you have Joni Ernst saying, like, well, everybody dies, right? And talking to you from a graveyard. And that's why they're moving in the way that they are, because they're not concerned about their seats. And
That's such a good point.
really interesting to me. So I just want to get your hot take on that.
Yeah, no, I have a thought on that. So I'm just going to put an asterisk here really quickly. In the event that this live, if I disappear, Danielle, you feel free to do whatever you want with the ending here. Go as long as you want. Kyle's on, because I have never heard a storm like this, but somehow we still have power.
We can't hear the storm. We can only
It
hear part.
is rocking this place. It's crazy. I mean, and what's interesting is, like, we're not that far from DC. So it's, there's always something, right? Like, Barack Obama does this incredible LGBTQIA plus work, and then there's a rainbow over the White House. Right now, DC is getting destroyed. I think you have an excellent point, but here's the other thing that I think. I believe that if you look at this, and I know the CBO came out and said, 12 million may lose healthcare. Look, and people are going to run out of prescriptions, and this could go to 20 million. This is what I believe. Let's say in a parallel, because this question about elections in general is a very good one. I think Republicans know that most people are not going to be impacted immediately. And so they're going to come out of here in a month from now, and 6 months from now, and in October of next year. And they're going to say, that was all bullshit from Democrats. Has it affected you? And it will affect some, but some of these are going to take 2 years, 3 years, 4 years people are going to die from what they're doing if this goes through. However, it's not going to happen overnight. There will be people that are affected a week from now, and people that, when that's signed, there will be people that are affected 12 months from now. But when you look at, like, the overall numbers, I think they're going to be able to make the case that it didn't affect you.
That's really interesting. So you're more of the Danielle will have midterms, and they're just going to go with the same, like, ignorance and lie.
Well, I don't know, because I'm also
the
a firm believer that, like, Republicans use conspiracy theories to cover up their criminal conspiracies. And one of the things that Elon said in that sort of string of stuff was, you wouldn't have won Pennsylvania without me. And
correct.
I'm like, I have a few questions about that, because I've never been a big believer in any votes being changed in the voting booth. But I do believe that all of this disinformation affects the perception of voters, which then in reality changes the votes of people going into the voting booth. But I thought that was a strange thing. So you have a very fair and valid question, right? We don't know what goes on. I mean, they're doing intelligence briefings and only briefing Republicans, not Democrats. So why wouldn't there be a private briefing where Republicans know that there's not going to be elections. It's a fair,
And
it's a fair
let's
assessment.
just say down in Miami, their local mayoral race, they just decided to switch the dates. Oh, they were supposed to have an election in 2025 in November, and they've just changed it to even years. So now the next election for mayor in Miami, I believe, is not happening until 2026. And the current mayor was term limited out and was just gifted another year. And I believe
Yeah,
that
and
they're
that's so
running
yeah.
that as a test case. How
Yeah, like
outraged will the people be, right? If
look,
Donald
that's
Trump
such a good
says,
point. And what better place to do it than, you know, an area like Broward that historically 2004 and beyond has the same issues every election cycle. Now the other thing too, to your point, which could potentially happen, is Donald Trump could try to gaslight us and suggest that we are at war, and he is going to do what Ukraine did. Now that was very different, right? In terms of the election there, the popularity, the president overseeing it, and they were victims, right?
Right.
I could see Donald Trump pulling exactly what you just said and extending, as opposed to, you know, calling off the elections and extending the presidency for 12 months while, you know, enacting martial law or something like that. You've got a great point. This is why I love talking to you.
I'm just saying all of these places, what happened and continues to happen in LA, what Donald Trump is trying to bring to New York and to Chicago, alligator Auschwitz that's being built, all of these things are connected. And I just want people to understand they're not just filling these places with quote unquote undocumented immigrants, right? Go back to Donald Trump's Oval Office meeting with the president of El Salvador that said we need 5 more CCOTs for dissenters, right? Like they are playing games in these local elections, in these local spaces to see how far they can go before they're before they're truly called out, before the people truly push back, and before Donald Trump can just get his finger on the Insurrection Act and say, we have a problem here, right? It's wag the dog. Like that's what this is. It's a 90s movie. If you have not seen it, you should.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm a little older than people think. I'm getting there. I got a 16-year-old and a 2-year-old. No, I mean, exactly what you're saying is it's so spot on. And history repeats itself. And I was talking with a friend about this the other day, but you know, there's so many things that like come up that we just forget about. And you know, it's like look at 2014 Maidan in Ukraine. That campaign for Yanukovych, who at the time was the president of Ukraine, who fled to Russia when ultimately the people stood up and were like, we're sick of this shit. And he left in the middle of the night and tried to burn and throw away all his documents in the water, was run by Paul Manafort. And the campaign slogan was make Ukraine great again. So what we're seeing is not new. This stuff has been used by, you know, Paul Manafort and Roger Stone and others for years and years, but also in elections overseas. And but now, you know, I think it's one of these things where we all warned everybody that this was going to happen. We all knew about Project 2025, but we not only were they more organized going in, it's 10 times worse, right? It's that much worse. And they don't give a shit about anybody. And Donald Trump doesn't give a shit about anybody but himself. He doesn't care about anybody in his family. He loves seeing people humiliated, even his own family members.
Yeah, he gets off on it. He is a sociopath. I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but I think that all you have to do is look at Donald Trump and understand his patterns of behavior. He's a sociopath, and I think that they get off on people's pain. They get off on the suffering, and you know, and that's why I say that even in this time of like incredible pain and angst and fear that people have, that joy is really important, community is really important, because they get off on the trauma that they're causing, right? So we have to keep ourselves as grounded and healthy as we possibly can.
Yeah, no, I think that's so spot on. All right, so there's some really nice questions also. I'm gonna wrap this up. Oh, Allie's my much better half is in the comments. Y'all are the best. Thanks, Allie. Thanks for picking up Paxton during the show. I'm going to wrap this up with something that you've said multiple times, but you brought up, I think the last time we were on together was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and you said it again. That is the need for a general strike. I
Yes.
believe that that is really one of the only things that is going to fix this.
Yeah, I say it every day on my show, on the Danielle Moody show, and I write about it often. Is Look, the American people have got to reach a breaking point. I think that this billionaire bill is that breaking point. I think that while people are not going to feel the pain immediately, 12 million people are not going to lose their access to healthcare immediately. Hungry children are not going to lose free lunch immediately because most of these cuts will stagger in between 2026 and 2028. The fact is that communities are already hurting, right? Neighbors, friends are already being kidnapped and taken away. You're already seeing the suffering that is happening in this country. And we need to get to a place where folks recognize that the only way to stop fascism is to shut this shit down. And what do they care about more than anything else is money. Right. And so a national strike, and I have said that this needs to be in coordination with the auto workers unions, who I know some that voted for Trump, need to be in connection with the teachers unions, the nursing unions, and so on and so forth, as like a starter, right? And go out to the indivisibles and to these different places. But like, the only way that we're going to stop this, and the only way that the people regain power, is if we model a national strike after the Montgomery bus boycott and understand that we are already facing pain, but collectively, right, we can actually have massive impact. The Montgomery bus boycott lasted for 18 months. That was 18 months that Black people walked in the rain, sun, sleet, and all of those things, that had to organize carpools, that had to organize, walking on the street, which made them very vulnerable to the KKK and to white nationalist groups, right? So they did that for 18 months. And that's how we got change in this country. So the question that I have to the masses is, what are we willing to do? And I only see that a national strike is what's going to get us out of this, because voting alone is not going to fix it.
Yeah, I think that's so spot on. And my hope is, I know there's another No Kings protest plan, but it would be nice after that one if the next thing was a general strike. And you said something else a few weeks ago when we were on together, which was, at some point, it just seems that like everyone is going to have to feel this and feel that
Yep.
it impacts them and affects them, because so many of the folks that voted for Donald Trump last time seem to not realize that it literally does affect them. And with that, I would be remiss not to give a shout out. We have a family friend here in Northern Virginia who 2 weeks ago had his door kicked down in the middle of the night and was kidnapped by individuals with masks and flown to Louisiana, and is now in Honduras. His name is Orlando, and his birthday was yesterday. His entire family is here, and he has no family where he is sitting now. So this affects everybody. Now, I'm not a Trump voter, but if this is happening to people that we know in our neighborhood, it's happening to everybody. With that, I would love for you to just remind everybody where they can find you. And in the follow-up that we're going to send out, we will include links. And then maybe we can make this a weekly thing or something.
Amazing. So Adam, thank you so much for having me on. It is such a delight to speak to you one-on-one. So folks, you can find me if you're watching on Substack at The Damn Digest. And I write and post videos all the time there. I keep all of my content free because I think that democracy dies behind a paywall. However, if you'd like to become a paid subscriber, you can. And you can find me on YouTube at the Danielle Moody channel. I am on YouTube live 12 p.m. Eastern, Monday and Friday, with Wajahat Ali from the Left Hook. For democracy,
who's experiencing this storm as well right now,
right,
somewhere around the corner.
Somewhere around the corner. And then the Danielle Moody Show is live on YouTube Monday through Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. And then I also host As the World Churns with my co-host Andy Levy, and that is also up on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sunday. No, Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. So I like to stay
And your
busy.
bios are really nice and up to date too.
Thank
So if
you.
you're on Instagram or wherever else, it lays it out there. And just to confirm, DAM are your initials, right?
DAM are my initials. My parents
Okay,
knew
yeah.
what they were
DAM.
doing.
I love it. Yeah, yeah. That's what I
DAM. Those
thought.
are my initials. So they knew
Oh,
what
that's
they were
awesome.
doing.
Well, hey, thanks for your patience with the storm, but this was great. I always really enjoy hearing from you. And if you're watching this or you're watching this later, again, we want to build up Danielle's Substack even bigger. So I'd love for you guys to throw comments in the final one that goes up so that she can answer any questions that you guys didn't get answered here today.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you.
Hey, you too, Danielle. Thank you for everything and anything we can ever do, but you are the best. And thank you for always being honest, truthful, and the voice that we need in leadership in the Democratic Party. If you ever want to, run for the U.S. Senate, run for leader, whatever, we need you, and we need less Uncle Festers from Pennsylvania. So with that, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
See ya.